Right. You got anyone in chat yet? No. What? Is there anyone there? Go down to the bottom, it should say live chat. You clicked on the link, yeah? Hold on. Let's see if we've got the reading glasses on. No. No. There it is. You can make that bigger, you can. Okay. So we'll get going just in a second. Wait and see. Okay. How many we got? 3. Yeah. Right, so let's see. Just before we start, I'm just going to go over a couple of builds that I've got on the go at the moment. Don't get to show them very often, so I thought I'd take the opportunity. So I'm currently building a Formula One Jordan from the so it'll be the 90s, I guess. 90s, mid-90s, something like that. So I'm sort of midway through, and this is where I'm at the moment. Originally, I was going to do some hot exhausts, so the exhausts were all glowing red, and it was to simulate it running really hot, but it didn't quite work out. So in the end, I just took it all back to the primer and resprayed as it would normally be. I've got a nice finish going on the, that is actually fantastic finish. It's the first time I've looked at it since I sprayed it a couple of days ago, and that is, there's no gloss coat on that at all. That is contrary to, actually it's quite relative to some of the forums today. This was leveling thinner mixed with Tamiya. Was it Tamiya or was it Mr. Hobby? Yeah, I think it was Mr. Hobby Accurus paint, and there was a forum post went up today in which one of my colleagues was berated, attacked, whatever you want to call it, for saying that somebody was wrong and that you could mix leveling thinner and Tamiya or Mr. Hobby. Well, that is a result of leveling thinner mixed with Mr. Hobby. And look at that. That is fantastic.
Just bear with me, on that line.
No, I haven't. So there we go. That's that. Anyway, I don't want to stay too long on that. Time is running. So Angela's with us today. She's fielding questions in the chat.
Hello.
And so if you have any questions, just add some question marks before you're writing, and she'll see them and take that and go from there. The other thing that I've got on the bench this week, I've only just finished this section. Is this HMS hood that I'm building at the moment.
Leveling thinner and the label doesn't work. I found out the hard way.
Well, no, leveling thinner and Vallejo won't work. I'm on about the Tamiya, because it's not Tamiya's not a true acrylic in the sense that Vallejo is. So you know, yeah, you can't mix leveling thinner with Vallejo. Anyway, let's move on, because we've got a lot to get through, and I want to talk a little bit about decaling. So first of all, I've done a little bit of brief research on decaling, and let's cover a little bit of background. So decaling was created by a Simon Francis Ravenon, or Ravenet, in France, he did move to England in the late 19th century, where he perfected this technique. And decaling is actually short for decalcomania. Oh, I don't know. Decalcomania. There we go. And basically, it's a sheet of waterproof paper. There's a layer of water-soluble glue, and then the decal is screen printed on the sheet, and you add the decal to water, the glue starts to dissolve, and then you can slide it off the paper, you slide it onto your piece, and then it sticks there. So that's a really quick history of it. It's very quick. There's not a lot else I can add to that. Apparently it became widespread in the late 19th century, when everyone apparently went decaling mad. I don't know what it means by that, but who knows. So where did we get to? Well, last week, as you remember, we covered the camo. We'd done the freehand camo, and I'd almost got the white done on the bottom. Well, during the week, I put another couple of thin layers of paint over the bottom, and I got that white finished. I also decided to paint the front propeller, because I don't want to be on this small kit for a long time, and because I'm only doing a half hour, and I'm only sort of devoting a half hour to it at a time, it is taking much longer than I thought. Probably going to need to revisit my format and see whether I need to extend the time I give to each item, or I don't know. I need to think about that, because otherwise, bigger kits. I mean, this is a very small kit. It's a very basic kit. If we went to a big kit, we'd be looking at hundreds of shows before it got finished. So I really need to think about that. But this is all trial and error, and I wasn't expecting it to go through without any flaws whatsoever. So I painted them, and I also painted the few pieces, almost all the pieces that are needed to go on. So I can tell you that this was just done the same way everything else was done. Give the paint a shake, open the cap, put a couple of drops of water in, and then paint it on nice and thin, 2 or 3 layers, and you will, as you see with the propeller, we've got a lovely shine on that. We really do have a fantastic shine on that, and it's just thin paint painted over very carefully. And yeah, Tamiya paints do mix with leveling thinner. So we're not going to put these pieces on. I will probably do them off air. What we're going to concentrate on today is the decals. And decals come in all shapes and sizes, some good, some bad. Unfortunately, these have got a mark that runs right through them, which is annoying to say the least, but these are the only ones I could get in time for this. So we'll just have to work with what we've got and hope that it's suitable. So how do we, what can we use to aid us with decals? Well, because we're doing a basic build, we're just going to use the basics, what you would have in, what everyone would have in their home, and that's essentially just tap water. Now, when you use water with decals, the warmer the water, the quicker the decal will separate. So if you use lukewarm water, a couple of seconds, maybe 5 seconds, and it's going to slip, the decal is going to slip right off. No problem at all. You use cold water, and it can take longer. It can take up to a minute, maybe more. So we're just going to use this today. But before we do that, I'm going to show you some of the other items that can be used. One of the most popular ones is the micro set and micro sol. And these work. Micro set is you place this on the plastic before you put the decal on, and this aids adhesion to the model. Once that's on, you can then add micro sol. This softens up the decal and helps it conform to corners, complicated shapes, and it helps the decal get sucked down onto the surface of your model. So if you've got, there's often panel lines and things that these decals have got to go over, and these help pull that decal into the panel line, and when you've finished, you've got that look that looks as though they've been painted on. And that's essentially what every modeler is trying to achieve when they put these on. They want them to look like that. You can also use, most people to begin with will go with something like this, decal fix. I've not had much trouble with decal fix. So, you know, it's worked for me in the past. It's just I moved on to better things. Revel do one as well. Theirs is called Decal Soft, and it comes with a little brush. So, you know, there's hundreds of brands out there. If you're on a really low budget and you still want to protect your decals afterwards, you can even use PVA glue watered down. Once the decal's on and it's dried, you can brush this over the top. But I'm way ahead of myself there. So what do we need to begin? First of all, we need to cut out the decals. So we have a look first, and we try and assess the carrier film. The carrier film is the border that goes around the coloured decal. And we try and see whether it's got a big carrier film, little carrier film, and essentially we want to try and trim as close to the decal as possible. If there's a lot of carrier film, we need to trim as close to the decal as possible and cut a lot of that away so that it doesn't, you don't want it mucking up your appearance. With many decals today, they're already in reasonably good condition. A lot of them have very minimal borders, and you can literally just cut your decal out. It doesn't matter if you're not close or not, because it'll just slide off, and there's very little in the way of borders. So the first thing you need to do when you start is change your blade. Unless that's a brand new blade, you need to have a new blade. It's vitally important. You don't want the knife ripping through your decal sheet. You want a nice clean cut. So we are going to use this one. I've got a blade ready. Now, if you're young, please seek adult help with this. Do not try and muck about with these blades on your own, because they are extremely sharp. There we go. So we've got our blade on. We have a quick look at our diagram, so we see where we want. Now what I normally do is I will start from, I will do the side, so I will go from front to back, so from left to right on one side. So we'll do that first. So we want the left to right drawing, which is this one here. Now that's just the painting scheme for the wheels, and which are over there. So we can see we need number 12, which is down here. And just some of them you need to move the light about a bit to see them. So what I'm probably going to do to make this a lot easier, I'm just going to cut these out. So that they're already, and what I tend to do is cut each one out with the number and place them to one side. So this is number 2. You'll probably find you won't actually use all the decals, so it's a good idea just to look at the sheet first, because it may have a couple of different schemes on there. So you might find you only use half of what's on the sheet. It's always worth keeping them. There we go, they're coming away slowly. So we're up to 10, and we've got 4 decals down for number 10. This is where we've got to be a bit careful because they're packed close together, and they will be split up later on. We've got number 12. "13" I think might be had it. Yeah, I think 13. Oh, I don't know. 13 might be this black line actually. 14. Oh, cut the number off there. I just have to remember that number 14, 15. I would normally take a bit more care over these than how I'm cutting them at the moment, but time is short. And then I'm just trying to see what we've got. So number 18 appears to be, I think 17 might be that line, that other black line there as well. So I'll have to play that by ear later on. So there we go. They're all cut out. They're ready to go. I've got a little tray that I'm going to use for my water. It's best to try and get your water to room temperature at least. Definitely don't have it cold. Some people put a little bit of a tiny little drop of washing up liquid in. I have done that myself before. So here we go. So you'll need a decent pair of tweezers, a brush, a good brush that you can use, and I normally have 2 pairs of tweezers on hand to help. So let's get going then. So our first one is number 12. So we'll just go through and find number 12, 10, 11. Where are you? 13. 12, there we go. Oh. So try and have a good look at it if you can. Just it's got to go. I don't know, count to 10. Bring it out, let the excess drop off a bit. Maybe blot it on a kitchen towel a bit just to get rid of the excess water. And then just leave it on the side for now. Go to your next one. So that's number 12. And the next one is 2 and 3. So we already know what that's going to be. Here's number 2. And number 3 is going to be one of those. So we've got to split those. I'll leave the number with the one that's staying behind so that I don't forget what that's going to be. And then because it's going to be easily placed, I'm actually going to put these in water now, the next 2, so that they're ready to be placed. Now we haven't glossed this. Lots of people will say that you must gloss in before you put your decals on. I've successfully I've successfully completed quite a few models now with no gloss coat on before the decaling at all. The main thing that you need to ensure is that your paintwork is smooth. If your paintwork isn't smooth, that's when you're going to get problems. So what we're going to do here, we're putting number 12 on first. So we're just going to, we find out roughly where it goes. We'll put some water on the surface just to wet it down a bit. Find number 12. Now you've got to find your own way in this, really. Some people choose to slide it off with their finger. I prefer to grab it with the tweezers. This is a very tiny one, very hard to see. There's quite a lot of carrier film on this. Didn't see it very well. There we go. And then with a wet brush, if it's sticking, just slide it into place like so. Then with a cotton bud, preferably the Johnson's cotton buds, try to stay away from the cheap ones. The ones that you'll get that are like 99p for 15,000 cotton buds. They leave hairs and they're not very good. And just roll it very gently over the surface to take off the excess water. And there you go, there's your first decal done. And then we're on to the second one, which is 2 and 3. So it's let's see whether it's ready. Yeah, it's ready. And we just want to pop the X goes just roughly in line with the back seat.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why do they not go on in order? So like 1, 2, 3, 4. Why do you start with a different number?
Well, it's just the way I do it. Because like number 1 on this drawing, where's number 1? So number 1 is the opposite side to what we're doing now. It's this decal on the opposite side. So if I started with that, I would do that one. And then number 2 is this side. And then number 3 is this side. Number 4 is this side near the back.
So you choose one side, then the other, so that you don't get them mixed.
Yeah, I choose because I'm notorious for moving them about and putting my fingers on them. Yeah. So what I try to do is I do one side
and then change it to the other.
And then if it's a big model, I will normally wait until the one side has dried, and then I'll do the other side. And that way, if I handle the kit, like tonight, I'm going to be trying to do as much of it as I can. So unfortunately, like, it's remembering that you've got that decal down there now, because that will take overnight to dry and settle. Now, while I'm doing the other side, what I normally tend to do is I'll grab the wing, and there might be a decal on there, or I'll pick it up like that to do the wing. And you know, these will stick to your fingers. You've only got to touch them and they will come away. So it's up to you how you do them. I prefer to take the slower route, but ensure that they all stay on. So now we've got a little bullseye going in. Oh, there we go. Just grabbed hold of it there already. Come on. Stuck to the bloody tweezers. I will point out that these are old decals that I'm using. They're at least sort of 20 odd years old. So now we're on to number 4, which I believe has to be split. There's number 4. We'll just cut that down the middle. Again, the one with the number stays. I'm just going to cut that black line away there because that is also part, that's not part of the decal we want, but it will come off in the water, and it can stick where you don't want it. And then we've got that number 5. Where are you, number 5? So there we go. Leave them to a second. Let's look ahead at what we're going to do. Number 5. And then what I'm going to do is, while I've got it that side, I'm also going to put on number 16, 8, 13, and 17. I've just realised that I've forgotten to paint the walkways black on the wing roots, or by the wing roots. Apologies for that.
It's a beginner's mistake. It's a learning curve for everyone.
Right, so P. Let's that off that, and should have put a bit of water down there really. It's roughly where we want to be, just a tiny bit lower than the identification marking, and then we're going to now what I'm going to do with this is oh, don't want to use that one. We're going to let these decals settle, and they will be, I'm expecting to get a little bit of silvering or something with them. They just don't look very good quality because of their age. So I will leave any defects that come up, and then next week I'll decide whether we need to do an episode on dealing with silvering. Silvering is basically just where the decal hasn't taken underneath and in certain areas, and you have this flash of silver in places. It can be unsightly. And then we've got number 5. Before we put number 5 on, we will drop number 16 in, and number 13 in. Right, so notice the slanted edge on the flag, the tail flag. Let's just put a bit of water on there. And again, we want it to seat down towards the wing root and then over towards the side, just like that. Perfect. We've got a lot of carrier film on this here. I don't know if you can see. Let me come up. You can probably see it overhanging there. You can see the overhang, and that is excessive carrier film on there. So ideally, I should have been more careful when cutting them out, but because I was trying to get as much done in as short a time as possible, I didn't spot it. So there's two things we can do here. We can fold it over and water that down so it sits down across the front, and I think that's going to work here. If it doesn't work that way, just do the best you can and then come along later and just trim it off. Right, so I don't think, let's get the cotton bud on that. And again, push down and roll across. There we go. So now we're coming to, we want to do, nearly touched it there, 16. And that's going to go, let's just trying to see it now. I can vaguely see it. Yeah, I see. This is where microsole and microset would come in handy. They would help soften the decal and help it settle down nice and flat. They could also have the adverse reaction because it's such an old decal. They could disintegrate it really. Here we've got a problem where the decal has actually been formed with the border. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on first because I need to get that, and then I'm going to try and trim that off. So the new, oh, there we go, I've done it. Always happens to me. The dot is missing. I'm just gonna, oh dear, this is breaking up on me now. No, this is not the new tool. This is very old. Right. Let me try and get the bottom of that X on. Right, so now we've managed to do a successful repair. We've got a piece come away from the bottom of the X. Now, the good thing with decals is as long as you can position them back, once they've settled, the damage will be undetectable, depending on the quality of the decal. I think, given the age of these and the fact that I'm probably going to end up destroying them. So what we'll do with this red dot that's gone missing here, it's probably on my hand somewhere. We'll paint that in. It's not a difficult job. I'm probably going to have to do some of this during the week. I just want to come along. Get rid of that. Come back in with once it dries out, it starts to become less movable. So you just come back in with a damp brush or a wet brush.
I have another question.
And wet your decal and get it down. It doesn't matter, even if you can swamp the area with water. If you can literally flood the whole area, the decal will lift off and move about again. There will be a point at which you can't do nothing with it. I'm just trying to see if I can find that red dot, but it's yeah. What was the question?
You're complaining about the decals on the older models. Are the newer models decals better, or would you say the same?
Well, obviously, printing techniques have come on a long way. The dissolvable glue has improved over the years, and I would guess even the waterproof backing paper has obviously improved over the years. I would say that decals are a lot better today in terms of inks and colours and so on than they have been. Having said that, even today you can buy a new kit and the decal could be too thick, which makes it hard to settle down. Some kits come and they're too thin, so it's a very difficult.
So it's trial and error.
Yeah, every kit is different, really. Well, Airfix, for example, they use cartograph decals. Now, cartograph are considered to be one of the top, or if not the top, decal manufacturer. There's the red dot. Look at that. It's on the desk, so we'll get that back.
lost your train of thought now.
There we go. Yeah, so yeah, decal cartograph are considered to be, oh, well, I think they're considered to be the best that I'm aware of. There may be others, manufacturers out there now that are doing just as good job. Tamiya decals are a bit hit and miss. They generally, the quality, the color of them is good and everything like that. In terms of seeing small writing, they've come on leaps and bounds. More modern kits now, you can take a little jeweler's loop to them, and you can see the tiny little writing, and it's all completely eligible or legible. That's not bad though for a 20-year-old kit. I mean, and it all goes down on how they're stored as well. I mean, you could have a really good set of decals, and then if you store them incorrectly, when they come to be used, they wouldn't be any good. I mean, you don't want to store them in damp conditions, somewhere dry, cool and dry, and generally just leave them in the box. So we've got that one down. I don't think these are cartographed, to be honest. They're very, they're not very impressive. I'm willing to admit that decaling is not my strong point. Right, there we go. So we've got number 16 on. Now we're looking for number 13, which is this one here. This has been sat a bit too long, really. I don't know what to leave in this long. Let's just spread some more water. Now this is one I'm not sure about because it's got damage all around it. We'll see how it goes. Oh, nearly touched it again. Now I tend to think that this might look better if we had just painted this line in or even drawn it in. Some horrible, doesn't quite go to the end there, so I'm going to cut that border off. And he doesn't want it. I'll clean that up in a minute. Put that along that line. And try not to touch that. There we go. Now I'm not going to be able to it's definitely not long enough. 17, 16, 17 is supposed to come up. Up here. Around about there. And make that. So that needs to come down. I can see what I've done. So So we need to bring this along. There. And where are you? Next, number 8. Yeah, one of them big ones. Just trim around that. Have a closer look at this border on this, because they didn't look too bad. Oh yeah, that has got a large. So here's one where we've got to have to be very, very careful and try and trim off as much of that decal as possible. That carrier film, it's slightly off center, so there's a quite a large board around the 12 o'clock area of it, I guess you'd call it, and very little, if any, around this side. I don't know if you can see. No, you won't see it because it's. There we go. Just turn that off. Take that off. Now we need to keep a little bit just to handle the decal with without. So we'll keep that little tiny piece at the bottom that I haven't cut out. There we go. Put that down on the side. Along with the brush, make sure I haven't touched anything again. Probably going to have to come back and clean up a lot of these watermarks afterwards because they'll and I do believe we're running out of time. Oh, that is, this decal's actually coming apart. I probably wouldn't put these on personally if it was. I need to come over a little bit. I'm going to wrap this up in a minute. And add some water. And here, where the roundel is going. And we'll I don't think this is ready to come off yet. Oh yes, we are. Okay. There we go. This one will probably be able to slide off like that. Check where it is. It's quite near the front leading edge. And that. And it's roughly about there. And then just make sure that that's plenty of water under there too. Make sure that's straight underneath. No problem, I can't leave it alone. Should have come back, shouldn't come back. Right, now, I think that at that point there, it's probably wise for me to leave it. It's not a work of art. It's not great, but hopefully you got to see a little bit about what goes into putting decals on. I definitely recommend investing in some of the solutions or solvents that help with this, because they will help the finished decal bed down nice and tight and look really a lot better than it may do. I really don't know how these are going to pan out. They don't look great, I will say that. But this whole kit was made around the assumption that you didn't have any equipment with you. So again, just to reiterate, this kit was built on the basis that somebody's gone out, bought a kit, have not got any solutions, may have a couple of brushes and a craft knife, and essentially that's it. So if anyone's watching wondering why I haven't got a decent set of decals, or I haven't used the solutions, or why other bits have been done the way they have, that's why. But I think we can safely say that just looking at that model now, the paint job on it, I think, is very good for that's been painted by brush. I think that's a very acceptable build for somebody just starting, and that's what you can achieve with a brush on, you know, and just a pot of Humbrol or Revel paint. Hopefully when it's finished it will look a lot better. We've still got a few steps to go, so I will finish the decaling in the week. Then we will be looking at spraying, putting a gloss coat over the top. We'll look at that next week, and we will add the wheels and other bits on, and then we'll give it a coat over the top. So that's for next week. Sorry there wasn't enough time to get onto the Stormcast. He sat there. If you remember, we started to build him last week, but his head kept swapping about, and the glue was taking a while to dry. He's all ready to go now. but that will be as and when we can fit time in. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any comments or suggestions for the show, then feel free to leave your comments below. I do see them all. I do try to respond to them all, and I think that's about it, really. Thanks to Angela for doing the chat and chatting to people in chat, I guess.
You're welcome.
And see you next week. Bye for now.